Did you know that next year, 2025, Codemasters and Electronic Arts could lose the license to make Formula One video games? Indeed, at first glance, this could be the last year in which Codemasters and EA develop the official Formula One video game, in this case, for the 2025 season. Under the watchful eye of Liberty Media, which surely does not want to see this sales failure that F1 24 has been again. Therefore, Codemasters and EA have two very clear options, one of two. Either you turn the situation around and make a great Formula One game to try to convince Liberty that you really deserve to continue with that license, or you fall with the whole team and lose the license. And in that case, Liberty Media will probably do it before or just after the release of Formula 1.25. Why? Well, because evidently Formula One will want to keep its video game and will have to grant that license to another developer. And you cannot do that at the end of 2025 because any developer will obviously need time to develop the new game. Thus, whether it is one option or the other, in this video I would like to present 7 improvements that Formula One 2025 should include to truly be a good Formula One game and somehow win back the fans who are so disenchanted with this saga today. And of course, the first and most important thing I would like to point out is that this game needs a change of graphics and the first improvement that I believe they should introduce for this new Formula One game is the customization editor that has WRC. There is no need to go to any game from another saga. From another developer, we have talked a lot about Gran Turismo, we have talked a lot about MotoGP and the customization systems that both games have. There is no need to even reference other companies or other games, in this case also Motorsport. In this case, we are going to the saga itself, the editor that WRC has, the rally game that Codemasters also develops, and in which they have indeed taken the effort to include a new graphics engine. They are true geniuses, they are quite amusing, but for Formula One, no, for the biggest competition in the world at the motorsport level, not there. But well, focusing on the topic, the customization editor of WRC is sublime. It is very good. It is everything that the Formula One game needs because it allows a more than valid range of customization for what people want in this game as well, which is to be able to edit your car, to be able to put different types of designs at your discretion, and to change things on the car without having to use those predefined designs that are uglier than what and with a practically null range at the level of customization. When I tried WRC, I was completely impressed that Codemasters could do this and is not doing it on purpose. So yes, we need that customization editor because the My Team mode needs it. The My Team mode is very dead without being able to customize your car really to your liking. And we are not just talking about the car, but also, of course, the helmet, the suit, the gloves. Even in MotoGP, for example, they let you customize the boots as well. Codemasters should take a look at the competition because they might realize that what they are offering is of extremely poor quality. Because as I said, if you look at MotoGP, you will start to cry. Not only the level of customization that MotoGP offers you, which is incredible, but they also let you download and share designs with the community afterwards. Gran Turismo, Frontier's own F1 manager, even Codemasters' own WRC, are all light years ahead of Formula One. Formula One is the worst game in terms of customization, and this must change now. So yes, Codemasters, this is a must, people demand it, and you must do it if you want to create a worthwhile product. The second important point, and this directly affects gameplay, having a direct impact on all the races in the game, is that the AI needs to be fixed. And no, I am not referring to the head-to-head, which is probably one of the best head-to-heads you can find in any AI of any racing game. The AI in Formula One is magnificent. You can have some really beautiful duels, and in that sense, I am very happy with what I have, but I am not referring to that. I am not referring to the head-to-head, the on-track duel with the AI. I am referring to the DRS trains because that is what is largely destroying this game. That is what is not allowing for good races, making the races extremely repetitive because they all follow the same pattern. All the races in F1 24, or the vast majority, follow the same pattern, which is DRS trains. Everyone overtaking each other, mutually, overtaking all the time. Real racing situations are not generated. We are constantly in a DRS train playing with the same thing. Playing with the battery, waiting until the end of the race, and when we are 1 or 2 laps from the finish, we launch an attack, position ourselves in front, and defend. And this becomes extremely boring on many occasions. This is what is largely destroying the game. The game may have many bugs, but the game as it is could be much more enjoyable if the AI didn't have this bug and this huge problem with DRS and ERS. Because yes, these trains are not only generated due to DRS, but also because of the management of ERS that the AI has, thus causing these types of situations that are completely unbearable. The third point, which I believe would also add a certain variety and dynamism to the game, is something that already existed in the Formula 1 video game from almost 20 years ago. In Formula 1 2006, which I have played recently, and because of that I remembered, in this game we had a grid editor. What does this mean? You could start all the races in a quick race, and in that race, you could decide what grid you wanted to have, in what position you wanted to place each driver. This could add dynamism and greatly enrich the gameplay, allowing for different types of races and challenges, and enabling you to position yourself wherever you want before starting a race, which is something that is super basic. As I said, we are talking about something that was already in a game from 20 years ago, and that we are now asking for year after year. While it is something simple that won't change a large part of the game, I think it is something very positive that would contribute its bit to improve this Formula 1 game. The fourth point is very clear. Redesign the My Team mode. I think this is something that should be on the list of obligations, because it is true that last year we had a small revolution in the driver mode, which was long overdue. It had been stagnant for many years, and this year I think it is time, and this is clear, for the My Team mode. Definitely finish separating from the My Team mode and the driver mode. We have said it 1,000 times. They are different modes. Until very recently, they were practically the same mode with some absurd difference, but they must be two very different modes. The driver mode has already been given a distinctive touch compared to the My Team mode, and now it is time for the My Team mode to take that step forward. And I believe this should start by increasing the impact. As team principal, what does the My Team mode consist of? In being a team principal, so far, the decisions as a principal have been very small. Deciding on a sponsor, the order of upgrades, which was something that already existed in the driver mode, has not contributed much as a team principal. My proposal is to increase the impact you have as a team principal, because let's remember that in this mode, although it's a bit false, I've always said that the driver and the principal are the same person, but well, it's the mode that has been presented to us, and now that we have it in the game, I believe it can be done much better. And I believe that some aspects can be referenced from F1 Manager. Obviously, I'm not going to ask for everything that F1 Manager has. It's a game focused exclusively on management, not on driving, and therefore they have much more leeway when it comes to introducing innovations and incorporating things that are probably very complex for a Codemasters F1. But I do think that certain things can be taken as a reference, and I believe that one of them, for example, it would be to have a driver academy to develop. In F1 Manager, you can have 2 to 3 drivers in your academy who are competing in lower categories, and you develop them. I think it would also be quite good to be able to introduce in your academy in My Team mode, like other Formula 1 teams can have, affiliate teams or simply drivers in their academies to potentially introduce them into Formula 1 in the future. This would be an interesting aspect, but we won't stop here. Obviously, I think that as a team principal, you should have an impact on the strategies not only of your driver, but also on the strategies of your teammate. We are talking about you being the team principal. You should at least have the decision to say what strategy your teammate will have at the start, and what strategy you will have. This would also give it a certain distinction, making it different from the gameplay we have in the driver mode. Obviously, improvements can also be made off the track. That is to say, in the development of the car, I think there is still a lot of room for improvement. Regarding the My Team mode, I think we are still very far from what it should be. For example, in the area of car improvements, we could start making slightly more complex decisions. For example, when you make an improvement for the car, it would be good if they gave you the option of whether you want that improvement to go initially to both cars, which would imply a slightly higher cost than it would be for just one car, or if, on the contrary, you want to install it only on one car, either your teammates or yours. It would be good to see meetings where you have to decide which department you want to focus more resources on. From time to time, after certain races, to have meetings in which you are present. We want to focus on the development of aerodynamics for the next 4 or 5 races, or we want to focus on this part of the car. I think these are things that should be introduced, which would also add a lot of richness to the gameplay of the My Team mode. In general, it would be about involving you more in the entire decision-making process of a team that goes far beyond just saying, I want a front wing upgrade. There are many more behind it, and I know that you can't create an F1 Manager because it would be too complex, but I think there are nuances and little things that could be added. The ones I've mentioned are just a few, but clearly much more can be explored to achieve a My Team mode. much better than what we have today. But I do think one of the most important things that really needs to change in this career mode, not just in my team mode, but also in driver mode, is the fact of changing the aesthetics, how the mode looks. I think that although it may seem like something that is not very important, because appearance is not everything, it is true that what is visual is not the most important, but I also think that from time to time it is good to change the aesthetics of things because the player has a feeling of being constantly seeing the same thing year after year. And I think that from time to time it is necessary to introduce changes to the aesthetics, the game's interface. The fifth aspect I would like to see improve for this F125 is the ERS. Let's see what the problem is with the ERS. I don't understand what the issue is with the ERS. They don't know how to make a good ERS system. And no, I'm not referring to the ERS format we have today, which I don't dislike. The medium map, the overtake map, I like that. If that's not the problem is what happens with the fast lap map. For example, what happens with the fast lap map? Because I really don't understand it. The fast lap map should only be used in qualifying. Why are we using it in the race? Why is it poorly optimized? Why does each update make it even worse? From the beginning, it has been wrong. Since the game was released, that fast lap map did not use 100% of the battery. What is expected from a fast lap map? That it uses everything in one lap, and that didn't happen at the beginning. Then they released an update in which it did start to happen, but at the same time, the green bar, the deployment bar, suddenly got messed up because now it could be used twice per lap, which made no sense. I don't know what happens with the ERS, I don't know why it's so complicated to do it, but it is certainly not well implemented. The idea of having the map 0 is good, and I like being able to save battery when I want to, but we could also take a step further and include the maps that a Formula 1 actually has, which are attack maps, defense maps, where the car itself knows where it needs to set the 0, so they don't have to be using the map 0 in areas where they can't be overtaken to save battery in that area, and then when they try to overtake me, I can switch to the overtake map. To defend in this game, the truth is that sometimes it is a bit complex, too convoluted, and I think Codemasters should try to take a step further that wouldn't make the system much more complex than it already is today, which wouldn't be a big change, but I think it would help to have a more realistic gameplay, even more fun. And we come to point 6, which is the online mode. This is a mode in which I have no hope left. I still can't understand how the ranked mode only has 5-lap races. How can you have an online ranked mode, a qualifying mode, where you try to evaluate the player's skills, and only have 5-lap races in a Formula 1 game, a game where strategy is key, super important, and you're telling me that we can only do 5-lap races without safety cars, without the option to pit by obligation? It makes no sense. It's a mode that is even worse today than last year, which was already bad because the ranked system has never worked well. I like the attempt they made a couple of years ago to change the system, introducing gold, silver, elite divisions, but I think it hasn't been implemented well. It's very typical of Codemasters to have good ideas in some areas but not execute them properly. It's not well executed, and in fact, this year the online mode is quite dead. The game in general is quite dead. That's why it's important for Codemasters and EA to react to this situation, because they are going to lose the license. I find it very hard to believe that Formula 1, Liberty Media, FOM, whoever it may be, would allow 2 consecutive years of a disaster in sales like F124 has been, so they should get their act together. And I have left for last, for the 7th idea, one of the most important for me, which is the driver mode. And I know that in F124, mode has already undergone a redesign, it has had significant changes, and let's not kid ourselves, they will probably use this as justification. Codemasters and EA are not going to make changes because since they did it last year, there's no need to do it this year, right? A bullshit argument, because indeed the mode is still far from perfect. It is true that in F124 that format we had before has been changed, and I must say that good ideas have been included in my opinion. The issue of contracts, the issue of specialists, I think they are good foundational ideas, I think they are fine, but they still need to be refined. They are not perfect in terms of contracts. There are still gaps, and much more can be done in that regard. Regarding specialists, I think it is a well-executed idea in the game, the issue of specialists, setting challenges for each Grand Prix, the impact that this has on the development of the car. I think it is good, it is a good idea, I insist, and I also believe it is well executed. As a starting point, it is fine, but it needs to be further refined because I think it is the right path, honestly. In other things, I say no. In other things, I say it is wrong and needs to be changed. I believe that the direction they have taken on this issue of specialist contracts is well taken, but we need to keep moving forward. What I said a little while ago about the My Team mode regarding changing the interface, the aesthetics of the game, so that the player feels they are not playing the same thing from 2 years ago, I also bring that here. Can be implemented differently, that's for sure, but I think it would be very good, for example, introducing more cutscenes, and not just the cutscene this year. For instance, they introduced a cutscene mid-season in which there is a conversation between a journalist and another journalist. It's not really an interview but a conversation between the two journalists where they are talking about the driver market. It's fine, I like that they include cutscenes, but it must be said that these are cutscenes without any impact on gameplay. I like that they include one or two that give that sense of variety, but I think that needs to be combined with other cutscenes that have interactions where you make decisions or respond to questions or do something that has an impact. For example, maybe one of those options could be, instead of having secret meetings, which I think is not a bad idea, but I also think it may not be the best direction you can take. I think it would be better for me, for example, as a driver to gauge teams. In other words, you should be the one to scrutinize certain teams, perhaps in some way. I don't know if with interviews, I don't know if with conversations with engineers or something similar, I don't know, where they ask you questions or where you express your opinion about which team you would like to be in next year. And give 3 or 4 options. And then from that moment on, in those 3 or 4 options, you could see some interest bars. Bars that represent the team's interest in you. And from that moment on, everything you do on track, accidents, good results, has an effect on that interest bar. Your results, what you are doing on the track, well look, this team you are interested in is doing more or less. And when you reach a threshold, if you exceed a value on that interest bar, maybe the team can propose a secret meeting. But the fact of receiving a secret meeting without any sense, without prior notice from a random team, is a bit strange. That's why I say I think it would be good to first establish it with that probing where you are the one to take the first step. Saying, well look, I would be interested in these teams, and from there, depending on what you do on track, maybe certain teams will try to show interest in you. But not receiving those completely random meetings. It would be good to have, I don't know, 3 to 4 interviews per season, every 4 or every 5 to 6 to 7 races an interview where I ask you some questions and your answers have an impact, right? In your intentions, if you had interest and have made it known, in signing with Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and whatever you respond in those questions they ask you, I think it's important to emphasize that they shouldn't be interviews after every race. I think that would make it repetitive. But having interviews at 4 points in the season, I think could be good. I believe that way you don't make it repetitive. And also, if you know that those answers will have an impact in some way on what you are trying to achieve, it could be very interesting. And I think the issue of rivalries is also important, which is something that is also included in the game this year. You can have up to 3 rivalries. I think it's a good idea, but as has happened to me with other things, I think it is not fully implemented well. Because some rivalries make no sense. I, for example, have been doing a career mode with Ferrari, and I have 3 rivalries in progress. One is with Leclerc, another is with Verstappen, which are very good because Leclerc is my teammate and Verstappen is my rival in the championship. But the third is with Oliver Bergman at Sauber. So it makes no sense to have a rivalry with Bergman while I'm at Ferrari. I think it's fine, but it lacks, like it does with other things, it lacks polish. It needs to improve that aspect of the game. And I think that in rivalries, as I said, it should go a bit to the next level. If I have a rivalry with Verstappen or with Norris, and I have a clash on track, there should be some kind of impact in the game, an interview, something that really shows that I have a rivalry with that driver, and there has just been an accident on track, or a clash or something, or a long battle on track, something, I don't know. I think it should be taken to the next level, and that would also add much more variety. There are so many ideas, so many possibilities that can be explored, but I think it's a bit of the path that should be followed. And in this way, we would have a game that I believe is much better and much more enjoyable. And these are, for me, the 7 improvements I would introduce in F1 25. I would also like to know what you think about this topic and what your improvements for F1 25 would be. For my part, that has been all in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, I really appreciate that like, and we will see you in the next video.